Okay, welcome back, geographers. So next we're going to continue on and talking about bioregions and biodiversity. Okay, fantastic. We're going to shift our focus here to bioregions and biodiversity, which I think is a really fun topic. Geographers examine different regions and the biodiversity, what animals and plants are found where. Different regions are closely related to the climate regions we just discussed. A bioregion is essentially an assemblage of local plants and animals. Now, the major types of bioregions include tropical rainforests, shown in let me get my annotation up to point it out to you. So, tropical rainforest, shown in the light green on the maps here. So, this is the Amazon, Sub-Saharan Africa. Okay. So these areas again are like the Amazon rainforest, Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia here. And they're located within tropical latitudes, receiving an abundance of sunlight and precipitation year round. That abundance of sunlight and precipitation produce these large trees and large canopies of tall trees that create shade for the areas below, allowing smaller plants to thrive. And the consistent conditions support an immense amount of biodiversity. We also have tropical savannas. So tropical savannas are in their savannas that receive less precipitation than the rainforest. They result in fewer, more scattered tall trees. The vegetation consists of shorter grasses that thrive during dry and turn brown in the drier months, and they turn green in the wetter months. So our tropical savannas areas are here in southern uh, Southern America, as well as here in Central Africa. Okay. Then let me continue. Let me clear. So we also, here is an image of the tropical rainforest areas, okay, and an image of our tropical savannas, okay. So as you see, we have these tall trees in the rainforest that support the growth and shelter the growth of smaller plants down below on the forest floors. Then on the tropical savanna, we don't have the abundance of moisture. So we have some taller trees, but they're very sparse. We have mostly dry, short grasslands. Okay. Next, we also have deserts. In our desert areas, vegetation is sparse due to very low precipitation. So you might find some grasses and specialized plants like succulents and cacti that can store moisture or survive long periods without water. These are great adaptations of these plants. Some plants might look dead, but are just dormant and with extensive root systems to find that moisture. We also here on the below image have steppe grasslands. In steppe areas, you won't find large trees due to the higher elevation above what we call the tree line. Instead, there are various grasses and some areas may experience seasonal snowfalls. We also have evergreen forests, and these trees are adapted to cold temperatures and snow, with pine needles protecting them from freezing temperatures and providing insulation around the tree roots. If you think about pine trees, they drop their needles on the ground. These needles on the ground provide an insulation for when the snow falls on top of it, that it provides insulation for those root systems. And another amazing adaptation of these plants. We also have temperate deciduous forests here on the right. Deciduous trees shed their leaves in cooler months to conserve their energy, growing fresh leaves in the spring and adapting to seasonal changes. We also have tundra, which is not shown. I don't have a picture of the tundra. And these are frozen lands in the northern hemisphere, found in northern Canada, northern Russia, parts of Scandinavia, as well as the Himalayan mountains and Andes mountains, okay, due to their high elevations. So these different plant adaptations that we see reflect climate types and the biodiversity specific to each region. So when we discuss nature and the world economy, we see that plant and animal products are part of legal exchanges of goods worldwide. However, there are also illegal exchanges involving animal poaching, like the burning of elephant tusks in Kenya. Animals such as the Siberian tiger are poached for their skins, which leads to the depletion of biodiversity and endangers these species. Detrimental illegal trades also include rainforest logging and or poaching of protected species. We're going to examine these throughout this course. Climate change is affecting natural patterns, altering growing seasons and the habitats of flora and fauna. Some plants may struggle with longer growing seasons or heavier rainfalls, directly impacting their natural habitats. This brings us to a critical point. The current extinction. Here we go. The current extinction crisis. Evidence suggests that we are in the beginning stages of the sixth major extinction event in Earth's history. The crisis is primarily caused by human activities, with estimates suggesting dozens of species are affected daily. It's predicted that we could lose 50% of all species by 2050. That's only in about 25 years, which is an alarming prospect and requires urgent attention. Habitat destruction and related changes are significant causes. Tropical forests are a particular focus of these problems due to their immense biodiversity and their capacity to store and emit large amounts of carbon dioxide. Cutting and burning tropical forests are major contributors to CO2 emissions, highlighting the need for responsible forest management as part of emission reduction plans. So that concludes this portion of Chapter 2's lecture, and I'll be back in a moment where we will talk about water and water resources.